Well, anyone who's been paying attention to literally anything knows that Hollow Knight Silksong has finally came out 2 days ago, and it's doing gangbusters, with a high peak of 587,000 concurrent players on Steam, which it achieved in the first 4 hours of launch, and currently bolstering a phenomenal 436,000 players at this exact moment, only on Steam, so not including any of the other devices it launched on. When it launched, it destroyed the marketplaces. It crashed Epic, it crashed Steam, it crashed Nintendo, it crashed PlayStation, it crashed Xbox. Xbox and Nintendo had to delist it from the store because of how badly they were crashing it. It was something truly unexpected, something absolutely phenomenal that had occurred because of it. And of course, as I covered the other day, a few journalists were coming out here and complaining that the game was too cheap, that it was going to ruin the opportunities for other indie games, which of course, as we all know, is a Trojan horse to comment on the fact that Hollow Knight Silksong is embarrassing AAA games by being cheaper than they are, while being infinitely worth more value. But that's not the only complaint to come out about Silksong, and I kind of feel silly for not seeing this one coming. As the complaint that we all should have been much more worried about is about difficulty. Every single time a major and impressive hard game comes out, the first thing that happens is that there's a bunch of crying about how hard the game is. How it's time for games to be more accessible, time for games to be more soft and easy so everybody can play them, because all games should be made for everyone. Of course, as anyone with 2 brain cells know, a game for everyone is a game for no one. And Hollow Knight Silksong is exactly that. With 2 different articles that are almost identical, almost as though one copied the other or they both use AI on it, who knows which one they did, coming out lambasting Silksong for its extreme difficulty. And not to mention a buttload of streamers coming out and complaining about the difficulty, specifically of some areas. Now, some of these streamers have the gall and the acumen to admit that it's a skill issue. They're fully willing to admit that they are not platformers. I'm gonna be honest, I've not played Silksong yet. I'm in the middle of Blasphemous 2. I'm going to finish that one first, and then I'll play Hollow Knight Silksong. But a lot of these streamers who are the vocal minority are out here complaining about the difficulty. The people who were told that you basically have to play Silksong if you want any chance of succeeding on the Twitch algorithm, well, they're going out there and they're playing Silksong, and it's not Call of Duty, so they're all failing really hard. So before going further, like, subscribe, and let's get into this. So for instance, here's one of those videos of a streamer playing through Silksong, and his complaint is that it's just tedious. Here, let's just watch it.
I'll admit, it's cool, but tedious. It's way too tedious to keep doing over and over and over.
Well, that's one of the challenges of a hard game, especially in Metroidvania, is the war of attrition. You have to learn how to do things. Yes, the jump looks a little complicated because it's at an angle, but every single Metroidvania comes with a new mechanic that you have to learn. Or at least, every good Metroidvania comes with some kind of new mechanic that you have to learn. Grime had a primarily parry mechanic that one-shot enemies below a certain guideline. Blasphemous has their different weapon forms you have to master. Hollow Knight used Soul in a unique way and had the pogoing. All of these major Metroidvanias all come with something new to the table, and this is what Silksong brings. And you have to get used to that, and if you don't like that, that's fine, but you don't have to play Silksong.
My one complaint about this area. It's cool, but so tedious.
Now, if you look right there, he just had his progress reset. He fell all the way back down to where he started. And if you notice, it's because he missed a jump and then failed to kill some low aggro enemies. He failed to hit them and they pushed him off. He didn't move around them, didn't jump over them, didn't attack them. He let them push him off. Where, once again, it's not that it's as tedious necessarily, it's that it's a skill issue.
See, like, we fall. And I know, skill issue, for sure. Not saying not. But it's annoying.
Just to jump again. And now that he's getting angry, it's actually getting harder for him to do that. And that's just one of the few videos. In fact, this one specific zone in the game seems to be the spot that's really catching a lot of these not actual hard game gamers. The people who don't always play the really aggressive games. I've seen a lot more than these are only the ones I could find today while I was looking for sources for this video. So here's another one of the same guy, a different guy failing the same area.
Oh.
At least he succeeds in killing the bug.
It's just rage bait, bro.
He just called it rage bait. He just called his own skill issue rage bait. If you notice, he's fully committing to jumps. He's jumping too high and then diving at the wrong angle, which proves beyond a shadow of doubt it is just a skill issue because he isn't bothering to learn the actual mechanic. He's just trying to brute force his way through.
Game, literally, bro.
Right there, overcommitted the jump. He only needed probably half a jump or a third of a jump.
And
that time he did it too early.
Just some bad skills, some... They're gonna get me.
And look, I get it. Hard games are hard. That's why we love them. We love hard games. There's a really easy way that I've found to handle games that are harder than I can deal with. I find an area that's safe and I practice. When I played Elden Ring, the first thing I did is when I found that guard outpost in Limgrave, I immediately went to the line of grace right next to it, and I just keep running in. I'd aggro one or two of them, and I'd get the timing down. I learned to play the game by just grinding out one camp until I could beat the entire camp, including the higher guard, without dying. That's what I'll probably do to master the jumps, and that's what you have to do if you want to actually progress through these games. You have to learn how to play them and deal with the excessive difficulty.
This might be the hardest.
This one is probably my favorite, though, because I love this guy. Jay the Frog Zero is one of my favorite recent content creators. He's fantastic. He does great stuff. This entire video, if you can't tell, is satire. He's sarcastic throughout the entire thing. Don't take him literally, okay?
Take off my account yet. Silksong for me personally, and I want to buckle your shoe, is a maximum 4 out of 10. And I'm
Now remember, before you get angry, this is rage bait. He's trolling. He's trolling you.
sorry, but this game just isn't it for me. And before you all come at me, hear me out, I have my reasons. First off, the pogo mechanic is just silly weird. Being left and right at an angle instead of straight is confusing as shit and unreasonably complicated for no reason. Like, it just doesn't bounce good. Also, the fact that I have to play to unlock the dash is just terrible. Just give it to me, dude. This is just
the anti-grind narrative. Now, you're not going to believe me because I couldn't find it. I couldn't find the video, but I unironically saw somebody say Hollow Knight was not for them because it didn't have a battle pass. I unironically saw a video of somebody saying they needed a battle pass to grind for in a Hollow Knight, and they couldn't play Hollow Knight because there was no reason to grind for cosmetics. I'm not rage baiting you. I'm not lying. I legitimately saw it.
just bad game design. I can't pay for this. I have to play the game that I just bought to unlock stuff in the game. That's ridiculous. I might have to tweet about that, not gonna lie. And honestly, the boss design of this game is so underwhelming compared to Hollow Knight, where you had these unique bosses, and in this game you have this? That's just the same person in a different color. What are we doing? And I'm very...
And yeah, it's just him trolling the whole thing. And of course, that whole line about having to not being able to pay for it, having to grind the game, also goes back to that Call of Duty streamer who's playing Helldivers to get the ODST armor, who was pissed he had to play the game to unlock the armor, to get the war bonds to purchase it. But it would be all fine and good if it was just a couple of nobody streamers getting really mad at the game. But no, now games journalists are picking up on it, and that's where the issue comes. You see, streamers unfortunately actually do have an effect on how culture behaves. Game journalists hear what streamers have to say first, and that's how they judge what to do with the rest of the game, and it causes a lot of issues as they try to appease them. And then, of course, because games journalists, as we all know, can't play games. They suck at them. They're terrible at video games. They have to come out here and use it as they have to use a Trojan horse of feel bad for the gamers who can't play it. Feel bad for the disabled gamers, as though you're not minimizing the impact of the disability on the gamer and how great of an accomplishment it is for them. So first comings from Games Radar, Hollow Knight Silksong has barely been out for a day and players are already complaining about its difficulty level. I feel like they're being really overusing double damage. While player reaction thus far has been mostly positive, some have been taking issue with its difficulty, which is said to be significantly higher than the first game. Which, by the way, that means that this journalist also hasn't played the game. Now, I haven't, because I have a life and my job isn't to play and review games, but as a games journalist, you don't have an excuse. Spend the $20. Players have been venting their frustration on threads on the Silksong subreddit. I feel like they're really overusing double damage so far, a poster said, referring to the fact that hits from many enemies take away 2 masks, icons in the game's health meter rather than 1. Touching an enemy should only ever be one mask. Some of the hitboxes have felt a little janky, and accidentally touching them for 2 masks is the rough part for me, agreed a commenter. Been having a really... I love this one. I don't know why you would include this one if you're not trying to push a little bit of a message here. Been having a really hard time physically and mentally, especially mentally, added another. I was looking forward to most anticipated game ever after having the worst work day ever. Get really hyped, sat down and played it. It made the depression worse. I'm upset, I don't like it, and I'm upset I'm not good enough at the game to like it. This person out here complaining that the game isn't made for them, throwing a fit because they clearly don't know what they were getting into. And that is a problem. Hollow Knight Silksong selling so well, and then having the culture of gaming we do, is going to run into an issue where we're saying, this is the greatest game of all time, you have to play this game, you have to buy this game, and you're going to love it. We're telling that to people who haven't played a Metroidvania, people who haven't played Souls-likes, telling people who might very well not be able to actually deal with the increase in difficulty, and then we're going to run into some issues when they fail to deal with it. And then we have a very affirming culture right now that's not going to tell them to get good. Get good's not being used on Reddit. If you say get good, you get banned half the time. And then games journalists are going to come in here and use this as a way to sneak in their little rhetoric of how all games should be made easier. They want them to all be like Dustborn with skippable boss fights. This is way too much double damage, read another thread. A bunch of random enemies do it too, it's honestly just annoying. And I'm happy that I'm not the only one. Double damage in its first game was reserved for late game bosses and slow big hits, a reply said. From the get-go, random ass stuff seems to do double damage. Well, no, there was double damage earlier in the game with enemies who weren't overtly slow. There was the big guy who wasn't exactly a particularly slow enemy. He's really hard to kill if you don't use your dash well. Also, I noticed one thing when watching some people play the game that completely destroys this little narrative about double damage and too much damage. It looks like when you heal for more than one mask. When I was watching the gameplay, I was noticing that when Hornet used her healing, she healed significantly more damage than you do in Hollow Knight because you only heal one mask per healing sequence in Hollow Knight. That's a very different thing. If you're healing multiple times, then double damage isn't nearly as big of a deal. Now that is of course just going on what I've seen because I've not played the game. And then everyone's favorite game rant went out and did the exact same article, almost word for word honestly. And like I said, this happens basically every single time one of these games come out. One of these major, mainstream, hard games. Things that actually make you have to try, things that build resilience, and things that build your ability to persevere. Perseverance is punished in favor of easy gameplay. So when you have a game that's just really difficult and the mainstream can't handle it, instead of telling them to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, get good, and actually try hard, instead what you get is a bunch of people telling you that no, the game really is harder than it should be, and you're just fine the way you are. We'll fix the game for you, as they push for easy modes in these games. But you can't have an easy mode of Silksong, you can't have an easy mode of Hollow Knight, and you can't have an easy mode of Elden Ring, because that actually destroys the purpose of the game. That destroys the style and the emphasis on the game that it really should be having. So Arrowhead, the company behind Helldivers, has specifically stated that they've completely stopped listening to streamers and they only listen to what the player data suggests, which is the way they should be doing it. And I really hope more people do that. More people need to realize games journalists are worthless and streamers usually aren't all that good at video games in the long run and need to start learning to think for themselves or through trusted individuals, not just anybody with a microphone. And hopefully I've become one of those you trust to speak honestly. But that's pretty much what I've got. Let me know in the comments. Have you guys seen Silksong? What are you guys' thoughts on it? Is it good? Are you enjoying it? Because I'm desperately waiting to get to it. And I'm looking to change my profile picture soon. But I have no idea what I should do. If anyone has any recommendations, leave it down in the comments and I'll see what I can do. Because let's be honest, my profile picture sucks. Alright, and I'll see you guys on the next one.